Hi everyone. We're going to read a few more chapters from The One and Only Bob. And the last time we read, Bob was visiting Ivan at the zoo. So let's find out what happens next. Not talking. Often when I'm with Ivan, we don't even bother talking. We just look out at his domain, at the green grass and the crazy babies and the swaggering juveniles and the hard-working females, and we think of nothing and everything. When you've been through the worst with someone, you appreciate the best. That's why sometimes when he says, "Hey Bob," it's enough for me to say, "Hey Ivan," and then we just listen to the palm trees rustle and watch the grass sway. Brave. Once when we were still at the mall, I told Ivan how brave I thought he was. The way he put up with everything that had happened to him and never stopped being a good guy. Ivan just looked at me, cocked that big old head of his, nodded a bit. "That's not brave, Bob," he finally said. "That's just knowing what I can't change." "I call it brave," I said. "I call it crazy brave." Ivan held a browning banana up to the light, like it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen in his long gorilla life. I wondered whether he was going to eat it or draw it. You never knew with Ivan. "Seems to me there are lots of ways to be brave, Bob," he said. A tiny mouse, name of Eek, skittered across his cage floor. "Hey, Eek," said Ivan. "Just checking for crumbs," she said nervously, because she always sounded nervous. "Dibs on all the leftovers," I reminded her. She looked so terrified that I relented. "Over there, behind that tire, old Carrot Top." "Respect, Bob," she said, scampering off. "Take a small creature like Eek," said Ivan. He scratched his chin with the end of his banana. He did that when he was in a philosophical mood. Maybe brave for a mouse is different than brave for you or brave for me. He looked at me fondly. "You're the bravest dog I know, pal." "I ain't brave." I chewed my tail, avoiding his gaze. "You are, Bob, untamed and undaunted," said Ivan, and he chomped off a hunk of the banana. He offered the rest to me, but I shook my head. I wasn't feeling hungry. Also, it was mostly just peel. "That's just my shtick, my routine," I hesitated. "I mean, sure, I'm tough, compared to, say, Eek, but that's just setting the bar pretty low." "You're too hard on yourself sometimes, Bob." I met his eyes. He has those dark brown, deep-set eyes, really kind ones, eyes that make you want to admit things, confess your failures. "Once when I was little, just a pup, I did something." Ivan waited patiently. Ivan was the king of patience. "I felt myself dashing into a dead-end tunnel I couldn't escape. I didn't want to go there, not even with Ivan." "Never mind," I yawned. I do that when I'm anxious. "I'm rambling." "Bob," said Ivan, "you okay?" "You know me, Ivan. I'm always okay. Always." I slipped away before he could ask me anything more. Ruby. "Uncle Bob!" Ruby races over, glump, 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 across the broad field that's part of the elephant domain. She's so cute when she runs, like she's determined not to trip on her trunk. Ruby adores me. I make her laugh. I read the room. I lighten the mood. I gotta admit, I am kind of adorable. When I'm with Ivan, I think, "Pal, we've been through a lot, you and me. We are survivors." When I'm with Ruby, I think, "Girl, look at you. Hard luck passed, and here you are, so much happier, so loved." Ruby, like Ivan, was plucked from Africa as a baby. She ended up in a circus that went bankrupt, then got shipped off to Max Mall. Ruby was taken in by dear old Stella. When Stella passed away, Ivan stepped in to play. Well, elephant dad, I guess. I did my part too, not because I felt like I had to. It just made life easier. Elephant toddlers are a handful. You think humans are bad? Try putting 200-pound baby elephant in a timeout. Ruby's family. Little Ruby seems much more content at the park, surrounded by her new herd. Young and old and in between, they spoil that adorable pachyderm like you wouldn't believe. She deserves every minute of it. Kid had a rough start. Some elephants hang out in packs of females. Now that she's at the park, Ruby has adoptive sisters and aunts and grandmothers galore. In the wild, the elephant guys head off once they're old enough, and they do their own thing. Sometimes I lose track of who's who among the elephants because they're always taking mud baths, scrambling up their smells. By the way, what kind of animal actually likes baths? Mud, sure. Ivan's art. How's it going, girl? I call to Ruby as she stops near the moat edging the wall. I had cantaloupe for breakfast, Uncle Bob, and it was yummy, and then I took a mud bath. She pauses to take a breath. Do you want to hear the new dog riddle, Uncle Bob? Of course I do, I say, and I catch Ivan's amused glance. What kind of dog is always on time? You got me, Ruby. I'm totally baffled, befuddled, bewildered. What kind of dog? A watchdog, Ruby exclaims. Watchdog. Get it, Uncle Bob? Not bad, Ruby. Not bad at all, I say. Ivan says it's going to rain buckets, says Ruby. She dips her trunk in the moat and blows bubbles. I think Ivan is on to something there. Did he show you his new picture? Ruby asks. She grabs a tuft of grass and tosses it in the air. I wish I could see it, but I can't because of that silly wall. But he told me all about it. My pal Ivan is quite the artist, just like Julia. Ivan sits up and nods toward a spot on the wall. Another mud mural, I ask. As any good dog knows, dirt plus water equals mud, and mud means mess, and mess means let's roll in this stuff and maybe dig a hole or 2, or 10. But for Ivan, mud plus flat surface equals a waiting canvas. I crane my neck, edging a bit further down the top of the wall. Don't want to draw attention to myself. Hey, nice, I say. I mean, I'm not an art guy. To me, art is a glop of spray cheese on a cheese dog with extra grated cheese on top of it. Still, I've always admired Ivan's work. Ivan begins. No, I say, don't tell me, let me guess. You always guess wrong, Ivan says. Not always. You thought my palm tree was a dandelion. Art is in the eye of the beholder, I say. You thought my blackberries were giant ants. Kenyani ambles up to join the conversation. And need I remind you that you thought his portrait of me was a chimpanzee with gas? The resemblance was striking, I say. Kenyani glares at me. She glares a lot. On the subject of chimps, probably I shouldn't have mentioned the chimp angle. Gorillas aren't as open-minded as dogs. A lot of them have a thing about chimps. They think they're clowns. But when I look up apes and gorillas, seems to me they have a whole lot more in common than they admit. Dogs ain't perfect, but I'll tell you one thing. Where we rule, tolerance. For us, a dog is a dog is a dog. I see a Great Dane, I say howdy. I run into a puggle, it's glad to meet you, how's it going? Smelled any good pee lately? Go to a dog park and you'll see we are equal opportunity playful. You sniff my rear, I'll sniff yours. You don't see that with humans, obviously, constantly seeing differences where none exist. All those things like skin color. Dogs could care less. You think I won't hang out with a Dalmatian because he's spotted? Or a Sharpie because she's wrinkled? I'm not saying I love every dog I meet. Snickers comes to mind. But I'll always give the dog the benefit of the doubt. Life is short, play is good, and there are plenty of tennis balls to go around. And that's the end of our part for today. Bye.